All right. Good morning, everybody. Um, Maybe a little bit longer video today, um, and I've been posting some shorts pretty frequently. Um, but I wanted to hop on today and talk about a problem that I've noticed substantially at at our hospital. Now, a little bit of background information is in order to help you understand the problem. Um, I live in what would be classified as a fairly rural area. Okay. Um, the city limits, the population inside the city limits of the closest city I live to is about 60,000 people. Um, the next largest city that's bigger than that is probably, an hour and 15 minutes away, give or take a few minutes. And so, however, in our town or our city, there are two major hospitals to service a city that size and a greater area of about that would encompass about 400,000 people. So this is not a unique situation as far as our country is concerned. I mean, in the United States, we're pretty spread out, except for some small pockets here and there. And so the idea of hospitals being placed in fairly rural areas is not new. It's not unique to where I live. But what I will say is there's been a shift over the past probably 15 years that has affected, as far as careers and jobs, that has affected especially rural hospitals. Maybe every hospital. I'm not going to pretend to have all the details figured out about what the hospital systems in, say, Los Angeles or Chicago or the Northeast, where everything's a little more consolidated. I don't pretend to have any experience there, but what I can give you is my experience, in a situation where I am, which is pretty rural hospital that services a large geographical area, albeit kind of sparsely populated. When I started at the hospital where I am, we had my hospital is about 360 beds, give or take, and we had all those beds open and operating. That was about 15 years ago. Now, fast forward to 2026, we've gone through COVID and all these other things, and everybody knows what happened to the workforce in COVID. It's no secret anymore. It pretty much decimated it. Nurses and physicians and other therapists and ancillary healthcare professionals that had maybe 5 to 10 more years, they counted the cost, and many of them left the healthcare field because they could. They had enough time invested, and they just made that decision. So what that is equated to is now at our facility, we at any given week for probably the past 6 to 8 months, we are unable to staff the hospital so that we can open half of our beds. Okay, we open about 150, 160 beds, and it's day to day as to how many we're going to open or how many we're going to close, what floor is going to be capped off, those kinds of things. Now, here's why I think some of this is happening. Yes, COVID. I'm sorry, guys. There's a horsefly flying around me, and he evidently he finds me appealing for some reason or the other. Anyway, the reason for that, I think, is more convoluted now than just blaming COVID for it. I will blame COVID for it. I'll be the first one to say that. However, we're 6 years on the other side of that, and what I find is some of the issue now is that healthcare careers are not viewed in a very honorable light, just kind of in general. In other words, when I was going through high school and going and getting into college, so we're talking about 2004, 2005. I graduated in high school in 2005 and finished college and my undergrad degree in 2009. So just since then, although that wasn't like a short time ago, it wasn't a long time ago. At least I'm going to tell myself that for as long as I can. Healthcare careers were encouraged to pursue. We were encouraged to pursue them, and I did. I had, the reason I landed in physical therapy is the reasons are various, and part of them is some personal experience that I had with physical therapy growing up, and some issues that I had that I was born with that had to be dealt with. But and then the typical sports exposure that a lot of, if you play sports, you probably have a sports injury at some point and have some sort of physical therapy along the way. All that being said, pursued a healthcare career, and it was encouraged to do so. Many of my classmates that I graduated high school with and college with, they became nurses. Some became physicians. So that was one of those things where it was kind of strongly encouraged because it was considered an honorable thing to do. I'm not so sure that's the case anymore. And without this turning into an hour-long philosophical dive into the nature of work and what people find valuable now and so on and so forth, I think some of the reason is that the idea of the digital economy has kind of taken root into the psyche of our general population. Okay, and maybe there's a bit of irony here because here I am, talking to you guys on YouTube on a digital platform, but I'm not getting paid for this, at least not yet. I'm not opposed to getting paid for it, but I also have a day job where I go and I take care of patients at a hospital. And guys, we have 2 nursing programs in colleges that are here close to our town, and they can't even fill all of their applicant seats because there's nobody applying for nursing jobs. And therefore, locally especially, that creates over 5, 10, 15 years, that creates a labor gap. If there aren't any students and young people pursuing healthcare careers to then come and stay in their hometown and provide services there, after a while, the workforce starts to feel that, and we have for sure. And it's not just nurses, it's physicians, it's physical therapists, it's respiratory therapists, it's nuclear med techs, it's ultrasound techs. All these things are affected, and what that translates down into is the facilities and the hospitals that would hire these people can't see the amount of patients that they need to see. Therefore, like I mentioned earlier, that is some of the squeeze that we're feeling as a facility. And so I wanted to take a few minutes to maybe encourage someone. If you are a young person, if you have young people in your family that you're kind of, your kids, your grandkids, your nephews, your nieces, and so on and so forth, can I just ask that you maybe have them consider, if you see that they have an aptitude for it, they're good with people, they care about what they're doing, they have a high degree of drive, they're they find the healthcare sciences come to them somewhat efficiently. They don't struggle in biology, don't struggle in chemistry, those kinds of things. Encourage them to consider healthcare as a career. There was that horsefly again. I think I dealt with him this time. But encourage them to consider healthcare as a career, okay? I'm fond of saying this whenever I have students or I go speak with new nursing students or go speak at at career fairs and things like that in our local area, I'm fond of telling them that, man, humans need humans. People need people. Okay, people don't need, artificial intelligence. I'm not a naysayer with AI. It's a helpful tool, but I don't think we've done a good job at putting reins on it yet. Okay, so I'm not a techno pessimist or anything like that. I simply see the need every day for people that are trying to come to the hospital, and we can't take them from these more rural outside clinics because we don't have any people to take care of them. Okay? Artificial intelligence can't do surgery on someone, at least not yet. That's a scary thing to think about. But something that artificial intelligence can't do, at least not effectively, is they can't be a human to another. It can't be a human to another human because it isn't human. And I know there's all these digital companion apps and things like that, and it seems like we're headed for Skynet as rapidly as possible. But at this particular point, and probably for the foreseeable future, people want to be cared for by people. And if there are no people going into healthcare because of the notion or the preconceived thought about what it about the demands of that job, and I will tell you, I'll be the first one to tell you, it is not always an easy job. It is not always a glamorous job. You deal with difficult people, and there are certainly things that are disadvantageous about it. But at the end of the day, when you stand at somebody's bedside and hold their hand and tell them it's going to be okay, we're here to help you, we're going to get you up, we're going to get you back on your feet. It seems like it's the end of the world right now, but it isn't. Or if you stand next to a bedside and somebody just got some terrible news, they don't want to tell that terrible news to ChatGPT or to Grok or to Claude. They want a flesh and blood human to help bear that burden with them. And that is a characteristic of healthcare that doesn't get talked about enough. Healthcare is an art and a science. It's a union of those two things. The art of dealing with people is not scientific. Okay, it just isn't. Certainly knowing the right medications and how to dose them right, knowing the biology and the biomechanics and all these other things of how to the neuropathology of how to help someone or what are they going through. That's all necessary, and you have to be competent in those things. But you also people need to be in connection with other people. So I would just like to take a minute and encourage you, if you are a young person and you have in healthcare, a healthcare career seems any kind of reasonable to you, pursue it. Pursue it. We need people. I'm 40, okay? I'm not the new kid on the block anymore. We need Gen Z. We need those. We need you guys, okay? Because here's the thing. Here's what a lot of people don't think about, especially a lot of young people. Because I was this way, but I've started to be confronted with this reality more and more. Guess what happens sometimes to almost everyone? You get sick. You get hurt. You have to go to the hospital. And our population isn't shrinking necessarily. We have a lot of people that have to be taken care of. And if there are no people going into the healthcare professions, there will be no one to take care of me or you, if you're a young person, in the next 30, 40 years. God willing, we'd live that long. Okay? So it's a very harrowing thing to think about, the status of our geographical area. We have one cardiovascular surgeon to service an area the size of ours. That's insufficient. He's one guy. Many people are having to figure out how to be transported out of our geographical area to other markets to get the care they need in the time that they need. Sometimes when you need heart surgery, sometimes you can schedule that. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes it just has to be done right then. And if there's no one to do it, you have to be shipped out to the next biggest city where they have someone that will be able to take care of you. If there are no nurses to take care of you, then even if there are three cardiovascular surgeons, if there are no nurses to take care of that patient, those surgeons cannot do surgery because there will be no post-operative care, and so on and so forth. So, just wanted to take a few minutes to say that healthcare is an honorable profession. Okay, all of the aspects of healthcare are an honorable profession, and I think it's a crying shame. And I'm going to get on a little bit of a soapbox here, that something as straightforward as being a patient care tech, so helping patients, stay clean in the hospital, help them change their gowns, help them change their linens, help them, take a bath, just do maybe even eat. If the patient can't feed themselves. That particular profession is honorable, and my opinion is they don't make enough money. No, they don't have a degree, most of them. Maybe they have a certificate for being a CNA or something like that, but they don't make enough money for what they do. They take care of you, of your grandma, of your uncle, of your sister, of whoever. They take care of them every single day they're in the hospital. They should not make anywhere close to minimum wage. McDonald's should not be able to pay their workers more than a hospital can pay their PCTs. There's no way. My opinion right there. And it's worth what you paid for it, which is zero. But I feel strongly about it. And I feel strongly about healthcare. Okay? We need people. And I'll say it again. I know I belabored the point earlier, but people and humans need other humans. We don't need more young people going onto a digital platform like YouTube, like Instagram, like TikTok, like Facebook, and trying to make a digital nomad career. We need people that are invested in their community and are willing to do the more difficult thing and get the training they need and go care and help care for the community that help raise them and care for them. I know I'm painting with broad strokes there, because maybe you live in an area where, you weren't cared for. I don't know. Everybody's experience is a little bit different. But what I'm saying is, it's a noble profession. It's a worthwhile pursuit to engage in a healthcare career that I think our communities and our economies are undervaluing, especially in the last 5 to 6 years. Everybody's saying, go into, become proficient in ChatGPT, become proficient in AI, and all these things. But I don't know, guys. I think we're going to see an increased need for more analog competencies. Okay, the need to go to be in a doctor's office, take care of people, be in a hospital, be at the bedside, and so on and so forth. So 20 minutes is probably long enough for me to rant on that. I don't want to be pessimistic. I wanted this video to encourage, if you have any kind of sway over the people around you, people in your life, maybe a local church, local community group, and you see an aptitude for in some of your young people that are around you, your kids, your nephews, so on and so forth. Maybe you're a school teacher, maybe you're a guidance counselor. I don't know. Encourage them to consider healthcare, because we're all going to need them in about 20 to 25, 30 years. And if we keep following the same track that we're on right now, it's going to be an interesting future for healthcare. So that's that. little bit different video from me today, kind of bouncing away from the therapy topics, and just wanted to kind of branch out into healthcare a little more broadly. But it's something that's touching everybody right now, especially the facility in which I work. So something to consider. And all right, that's all I have for today. I could wax on more eloquently, but you know, efficiency and brevity and all those things, they matter. So consider those things, and until the next video, remember, like I always say, you can't go wrong getting strong. And this is Jeremy with the Hospital PT.